indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Great work. Oh, here it is. Okay, I have several announcements, and I mean several. This is our CAO's last meeting. We're going to call him from now on. His nickname is Mendocino Mitchell. Okay? He's got a cell phone from about 3 different venues in each of 3 different pockets. Okay? So on his parting, he has 2 pages nearly of addendums here just to kind of rub it in, I think. So the following announcements. This is, first of all, regarding the closed sessions of September 11th, 2007. Closed session was held pursuant to Government Code Section 54957, conference with legal counsel, public employee complaints or charges resulting in no action taken. Also, the board canceled the closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation, Toburn versus Calaveras County of Calaveras Superior Court, case number CV 31237. A closed session was held pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9b2, conference with legal counsel deciding whether or not basis exists for anticipated litigation, 1 case, resulting in no action taken. And the board canceled a closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9b1, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation, 1 case. It's kind of funny here. It says there is an addendum. Good one, Tom. There are several addendums to today's agenda as follows. Excuse me. Item 8A will be discussion and possible action regarding a minute order approving contract for management transition services with Veris Resources in the amount not to exceed $100,000. Item 8B will be discussion and possible action regarding a minute order approving land lease for slope construction at Calaveras County Airport as part of the hangar taxiway project. Item 8C will be discussion and possible action regarding a minute order approving contract for architectural design and construction services with Knock Lewis for the legal building courts security improvements entry area. Item 8D will be discussion and possible action regarding minute order authorizing administrative office staff assignments to various board approved committees and commissions in lieu of the county administrative officer. Item 8E, discussion and possible action regarding consideration of alternative construction and financing plan for animal services facility. There will also be item 10A is a closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54957, public employment, interim county administrative officer, interim public works director. Actually, this closed session was held at 8:30 this morning. And so we've already taken care of the closed session item, which was 10A. And during the closed session this morning, I'm happy to report out that we have accepted the application, appointed an interim public works director and also an interim county administrative officer. So this morning we voted, actually Supervisor Walensky is not here today, so it was a 4-0-1 absent vote to appoint Mr. Michael Miller, not to be confused with Tom's assistant, Michael Miller as the interim public works director. Mr. Miller has a very impressive resume. He is a current resident of Calaveras County. He will be starting on October 15th in about 2 or 3 weeks. And we're happy to have him aboard. He is, as they say, Michael Miller is not the Mike Miller that already works in admin. Somebody suggested we tell you that we offered him the job and he declined. It was too much money, so he's trying to play low key here. Mr. Miller comes from a long background in public works administration, both in the city of Palo Alto and the city of Livermore, and we're happy to have him come on board. and there will be a press release issued later regarding that appointment. In addition to that, we have made an appointment of another Calaveras County resident to be the interim county administrative officer, a name that's familiar to a lot of people, Mr. Brent Harrington. And so he will be taking over as interim for a few months. And by the way, that was also a 4-0-1 absent vote of the board. And he will be transitioning with Tom Mitchell, and his starting date will be October 1st of this year. So in addition to that, we have, the only other thing I need to tell you this morning is we have a study session scheduled for 11 o'clock. Yeah, right. Working out of class assignments presented by Human Resources, and this was an item continued from September 11th, 2007. Okay. Somewhere I have an agenda. Just a second while I find it. We're moving on to the consent agenda. Items expected to be routine and non-controversial. They'll be acted upon by the board at any one time without discussion. Any board member, staff member, or interested party may request removal of an item from the consent agenda for later discussion. Okay. Any member of the board wish to remove an item for discussion? Any member of staff?
So move on the consent.
Okay.
Second. Excuse me.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to accept the consent agenda. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Carries on a 4-0-1. Boy, we are really moving right along. And we're right on time. Okay. 9:10. Public comments. Any member of the public that wishes to address the board on an item not on today's agenda?
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Elizabeth Thompson, and I am the Executive Director for Common Ground Senior Services, the provider of the Senior Nutrition Program and other programs here in Calaveras County, as well as Amador. Okay. I'm here to address you because I recently it has come to my attention recently that when the final budget was passed, our request at the preliminary budget hearing for funding for the Meals on Wheels program, the home delivered meals program, was denied. And I find it as a resident of Calaveras County, District 4, and as the director of Common Ground, that this is really not very good news, and I'm appalled and sickened by the decision. If I'm incorrect of what my understanding is of the decision, I won't go any further if we are on the budget for Common Ground. However, and I'm assuming because nobody's saying anything that that's true. I don't have any verification. Nobody's notified us or anything. Okay, so because of this, the Board of Common Ground Senior Services met yesterday, and we will be curtailing services as of October 1st, and what we would be doing in the Meals on Wheels program, the home delivered meals program, is changing the delivery of some of the routes. At this point in time, the hot meal routes are Angels Camp, Murphy's, and San Andreas. We deliver from Jackson to San Andreas and up through Murphy's daily, 5 days a week. And we offer these seniors 2 frozen meals for the weekend. As of October 1st, we will be changing the delivery service to frozen meals on a Monday, offering our seniors 5 to 7 meals 1 day a week. This change is not going to affect, it's going to reduce the cost that Common Ground is going to have in order to provide these services, but it will not benefit our seniors. Frozen meals do not meet all the seniors' needs, especially those who are real frail. Even heating up meals may be very difficult for them. The daily well-being check on these seniors is the most important thing, I believe, besides the meal delivery. And so this is going to go away. 1 day a week compared to 5 days a week is, you can't compare. The health, the physical, and the social issues surrounding seniors will go unnoticed because we're not there on a daily basis to visit with them. Many of these seniors do not have family members. They don't have any social contact. And our drivers may be the only people, human contact, they receive daily. This is going to go away also. Change is very difficult for seniors, as you know, and this is going to disrupt what they expect every single day. We get phone calls from our seniors if our drivers are even 15 or 20 minutes late. You know, they're concerned about our drivers. They're concerned whether they're going to be able to get their meals and to visit with them. That's what the impact of the non-funding from Calaveras County is going to do to this program. I came before the board last year at your general session and requested the $15,000 that we received out of necessity. I was instructed at that time also to submit a request to be a line item or to be considered at the preliminary budget hearing. I did that. I appeared before you at the preliminary budget hearing and stated and gave you information on with regards to the funding. The increases in fuel prices, the increases in minimum wage, the increases in just the purchase of foods because of all the other increases that surround impacts our way of delivering meals. And it's not going to change this year. It's the same issues. Last year, or the fiscal year prior to that, we served 27,000 meals in this county. This is just home delivered. That's not including the other meals that we serve for congregate and restaurant sites. 27,000. Last year, we increased the meal counts to 38,000. That's an 11 to 12,000 meals increase in just one fiscal year. That I'm expecting this fiscal year to probably hit over 40,000 meals. We can't serve 40,000 meals. We can serve 40,000 meals, but again, the method of delivery is going to have to change. It will have to go for these 3 routes. They're the only 3 routes that are getting hot meals to frozen routes, and then we will possibly make ends meet and be able to provide these services. There's still major challenges. $15,000 is not a heck of a lot of money out of the county's budget for what we do with it. I will give you a copy of my letter, and at this time I would like to request to be on the board's agenda, and also I would like to tap into the general funds again for emergency funds like I did last year. I was hoping not to go that route. I was hoping to get funded so I don't have to come back to you, but it looks like I'm going to have to. But effective October 1st, the change of method of service is going to happen. Also, in my packet to you, it's going to show the client donation for this fiscal year so far. I mean, take for example Railroad Flat and West Point. We served over 2,000 meals in those areas. Our donation rate for July and August, our suggested donation is $3. Our return rate for those 2 areas serving 2,000 meals was $7. You know, I mean, I don't know how we're going to be able to end meals. And if you go to these homes in Railroad Flat and West Point, you will see that a lot of them really cannot afford to even donate to their own program, to their food. There's an attachment 3, but I won't go into details about that one. That's just comparison between all the counties on how we spent our money. You know, it costs us $5 to do these home delivered meals. In some counties, it's up to $12. Common Ground is keeping their costs so low, trying to squeeze out a lot of meals and service and provide the service with very little money. And I think we do a really good job, and we want to be acknowledged for that. I hate coming up here every single year to ask for funds when I really don't feel like I need to. It proved. The last attachment I have is a challenge to all of you. I don't believe that you've all made decisions based on being informed and knowledgeable decisions. I do not feel that way, and that's personally me as a resident of Calaveras County. I challenge all of you to visit our kitchen at Amador Senior Center and see how the meals are prepared, packaged, and sent out. I would like for you to ride with a home-delivered meals driver and deliver these meals to your constituents in your own district. The congregate sites. These people, there's a lot of people, probably over 500 people that are participating in our congregate sites. They eventually are going to need home-delivered meals as they get older. They're active right now, but there's going to be a time where they're not going to be. Visit a congregate site, see what we do there. Visit us, see what we do, see how we serve your constituents. Talk to our program managers, talk to our assessment people. Our doors are open to you to come in. My books, fiscal books, everything is open to you to come in and review. But please do that. And again, I just want to close with, I would like to be put on the agenda as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Was your request the same this year as last year?
Yes.
15? And I thought that was like an increase and that we already had something in our budget, so I offer you my personal apology. I think that we should try to find some money. I said this last year, and the reason I'm a lot embarrassed right now is because I read your request as an increase, not the static amount. I know some people who receive your service, and it is revered. And I have been to your kitchen at the Amador Senior Center several times. And I hate you coming here every year to ask for food for people that are homebound as well. I think it's an embarrassment, and I have culpability here. I'm going to ask that our administration try to find some money for you, Melissa. I don't think it's right that we have people that cannot get out to get their own hot meals that can be denied that for the little bit of money that you've asked for. So, Elizabeth, sorry. So, past that, I can't do anything at this point but offer you my personal apology and tell you that I will try to see that your program is restored and hopefully have some success. And barring that, or even in addition to that, perhaps we do need to agendize this and have the thorough discussion of this issue. So we're going to work on that.
Thank you.
Elizabeth, do
Mr.
you
Chair?
Yes.
Go ahead.
do you do daily checks on those people you don't deliver hot meals to?
We don't do daily checks, just a 1 day a week, and that's where it really needs to be daily, but unfortunately,
But you haven't been, and you're not going to be serving hot meals to the outlying areas, to Copper or West Point or Arnold or wherever.
Unless we get delivery trucks that can handle the temperature requirements and all the other requirements, no, and we only have
That's
one
right.
delivery
So
truck right now.
You do daily checks in the 3 areas you mentioned, but in the other areas you don't. Do you do phone call checks, or does Area 12 do phone call checks?
We have 4 times where we do go out and visit these seniors. Our assessment person does.
Right.
4 times quarterly, they go out
Right.
and do that, plus just the 1 day a week that our meal driver is there. And they do bring back a lot of information for us. And when we call them up and suggest that, we know this entity that can help you with this, can we refer you? So even if it's not daily on those outlying areas, we
Does
do
Area
have that.
12 also participate in that?
This is what we're required for our programs. Area 12 has their own as far as other services that they can have.
Thank you.
I'm a little confused here, too. Did we cut their budget, or did we leave their budget status quo?
We've never, I'm
They've
sorry.
never.
The way the budget process works, last year, I believe, and I'll look to Shirley, the amount last year came out of general fund contingencies. When we do the budget each year, It's no different for any department. We don't count contingency draws during the course of the year. We put you back to a status quo budget. That was considered to be an augmentation done mid-year. So the 15,000 was put in like any other county department. It's an increase for us over the actual funding the board adopted for the previous year.
I see. Well, again,
I would support putting this on for next week and just do an addendum, because your services will be impacted the 1st of October.
Yes.
So if we put it on next week, that's what, the 25th of September.
Let me ask the question. Elizabeth, assuming that the board's going to consider, can you or your board, and I noticed Blair's here, it just extended another couple of weeks because, I mean, that you don't have to do the cutoff October 1, you could do the cutoff October 15, and there's no, we don't have to do an addendum. Well, we can't guarantee you anything until it comes before the board and it's voted on. That's item 1. So I guess I'd be asking, could Common Ground just extend the cutoff date to October 10th or whatever, anytime after October 2nd? So, and that's 1.
I think I can safely say for my board that I'm feeling that that you're willing to look at your budget and consider funding this we're not a line item in your budget. We've never been on the county's budget. We want to be on the county's budget. That's what I'm requesting. And I'm feeling that might be a possibility, and if it is a possibility, I don't want to have to notify our seniors the last week of of September, that on October 1st we're changing. No, I don't want to do that. So I will be able to.
Can you wait?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'll put it on October 2nd.
we can.
I'd rather have it be a week from today, because I may not be here October 2nd. So.
You want an addendum?
Yeah, I'd like to just do an addendum and do it next
All right.
week. I don't think the issue's changed. But before you leave, Elizabeth, let me go over a couple issues I've always had on the program. And number one is I think it's an excellent program, and I compliment you for doing it. When my mother was in her sort of last year, et cetera, she was on the program. But it was a very good program. The criticism I've always had, and you addressed a little bit of it earlier here, is what I always felt was sort of a lack of effort to ask people to pay the cost of a meal. I mean, $5 for a meal is extremely reasonable in my opinion, particularly for a hot meal. And I always felt that there were a lot of people, my mother included, who had the ability to pay, but they never were billed, so, sometimes you get paid and sometimes you didn't. And every day they bring a meal, they just leave an envelope. Well, nobody's going to write a check daily. I mean, you need a billing process. And I think there would be a lot of people that would not only pay their fair share, but pay more than their fair share if there was more of a billing process. Because quite frankly, when these people are homebound and they can't even prepare their own meals, the chances are they're not writing their own checks and paying their own bills. Somebody else is doing this. So you need to get a monthly bill to come to the party that's paying the bills, so that you can get reimbursed. And so I've always been very concerned that we were not allowing people that would like to pay or pay more to even do it, because it gets lost when you just leave it on the kitchen table, and that's not where the bills get paid. So I'm happy to hear that I'm assuming trying to do better on collections. You talked about the $7 instead of the $5, and I'm curious that you must have some billing method now that obviously is much better than historically what it was. And are you making an effort to at least get the bills to the people that pay for these people, so they have the opportunity to pay it? There's no legal requirement, I understand that, and there's no threat of cutting off meals, but you have to at least give them the opportunity to pay their own way. And quite frankly, I think most of them would, and probably most of them would pay more than their own way if they had the ability to do so.
The comment I have on that is that, yes, we do work really hard in trying to educate our seniors how important their suggested donation of $3 is to the program. And we do send out notices saying, you know, the cost, this is what the cost is, this is how much it costs to prepare it. It's still a donation, and we can't...
Yes, I understand, but it's got to get to the right person, because the lady in the house or the man in the house that can't prepare his own meals and is bedridden is most likely not the one paying the bills. So you've got to get it to the person that pays the bills. Find out who pays the utility bills and what the address is, and you need to do a monthly billing and allow those people the opportunity to pay.
And that's another thing. We can't do billings. I mean, that's against our
Or you could do
regulations.
suggested donation.
Exactly.
Call it whatever you like.
But even with, I mean, there's some scenarios with our seniors where they won't take the meals if they think their daughter or son. We have so many family members that try to sign up the seniors for the meals. We have very proud seniors. They don't want a handout from they don't want their kids to be burdened by the stuff like that, or even the bill payer. They won't even let them know that this is the problem. It's up to them, pretty much. I mean, we can just educate them, and we can leave and give them notices, but as far as finding who these people are, or the bill payers, I'm not even sure how to go about doing that personally, except to give them the
First of all,
letters.
find their mailing address, because the bills get mailed to a mailing address, and somebody's picking that up. And that's probably the person that's paying the bills, because if the person's homebound and can't prepare their own meals, they're probably not going to the post office every day to pick their mail up. All you have to do is find out the mailing address and just say, this is a suggested contribution, nothing is required, and do a monthly, put something in the mail monthly, and I think you would have a much greater, I mean, it's not that they're I mean, you can say they're proud and all this, but you don't even give them the opportunity to pay for it in many ways, because it doesn't go to the right party. And a lot of the folks that are, when they get in that condition, they're not, they're not focused on paying bills, et cetera, and they don't pay any. So you just need to find out where the mailing address is, and somebody's picking up the mail, and somebody's, paying the utility bill and the telephone bill and the electric bill and all the other bills that show up. So you need to just get a mailing address.
Tom,
and put
you're
something in
making
the
an
mail.
assumption that is not necessarily true. That
Well, it's not
there
necessarily
are,
false either, so-
that there are caregivers for many of these seniors. Many of the seniors do not have those caregivers outside of Common Ground, Area 12, or other senior services.
If I might suggest, we can talk about
We're
this
gonna-
on October 2nd, because this is not agendized today, and this is just
Yeah.
public comment, so I just remind the board that the appropriate time to have the conversation would be October 2nd.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Mr. Mason.
Thank you. Good morning. Bill Mason, Murphy's. Could you hand about these to everybody up there? And you can keep one yourself. I don't know if everybody heard me, but Bill Mason from Murphy's. Okay. What I'm here to talk about today is good morning, and Tom, you're going to have a great time in Mendocino, because I used to work in a place that was very close to Mendocino County, Lake County. I used to go there a lot of times. If you have a place to go and it gets real hot in Ukiah, you're welcome to go to Mendocino and Ukiah.
Constitution Day, huh, Mason?
Yes.
Well, all Tom has to do
Don't steal my
is...
line, please. That's the main thing here. Hold it, everybody. Yesterday was the 220th anniversary of a major United States historic event. And I know you all took time to reflect on how that event shaped your life, the life of your family, and the lives of the people of the United States. On the 17th of September 1787, in Philadelphia, 41 delegates in 11 states signed the newly written Constitution to govern the 13 colonies of America. New York and Rhode Island was not part of that original signing group. The U.S. Constitution has only 4,400 words in it. It is the oldest and shortest written constitution of any government in the world. The Constitution defines the fundamental law of the United States federal government, setting forth the three principal branches of the federal government, outlining the jurisdiction and documenting the basic rights of the U.S. citizens. It has become a landmark legal document of the Western world and is the oldest written national constitution currently in operation or in effect. The essential principle of this document is that government must be confined by the rule of law. Give you an example, Article 1, the very first article in this wonderful document, Section 1, all legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of the Senate and the House of Representatives. Anyway, let's go on here a little bit. Okay, if you moved on down through this page 16, you'll see another interesting part of the Constitution. The senators and representatives before mentioned, and there's a whole bunch of places and a bunch of other articles with how the government is going to be run, and members of the several state legislatures and all executive and judicial offices both of the United States and of the several states shall be bound by an oath of affirmation to support this Constitution. The last of the articles, on page 16 also, the ratification of the Convention of the 9 states will be sufficient for the establishment of this Constitution between the states, so ratifying the same. So, on June 1788, the 9 of the states had ratified this document. On March 4th, a day that everybody remembers very well and probably celebrates this date, was the date set for the new Constitution that would take effect. So this date is the date that the United States, as we know it, was born. A quote here is kind of interesting. The Constitution of the United States was not, like the fabled goddess of wisdom, an offspring of a single brain. It ought to be regarded as the work of many hands and heads. And that's Mr. Madison, James Madison, who was attributed to be actually the person who came from Virginia with the Virginia document, the Constitution, and they kind of followed that for a ways. And anyway, it is hoped that you will take the time to read and review this pocket Constitution that I have given to you. And if you'll notice in the back, there's a place where you sign it. And on the black page, and you read the few quotes that are most interesting. And you also, the reason I'm doing this is you also have a few other people that you head towards the Constitution as a teaching thing. We have, in the past year, to 1,200 public and private students in both Calaveras and Tuolumne County have given this pocket Constitution last year, and we're working on some more. It's given by the grassroots of Tuolumne County, which is an educational program set up to do what we are doing right now. One of the unique things about this Constitution, also has a Declaration of Independence in it, is if you look in, there's a section in the back there that tells you if you want to know war powers, taxing, blah, blah, blah. It'll tell you right where to go to. What article and what paragraph, which is a very handy thing. And it's good for everybody who has this Constitution. Remembers that the reason you are free today is because of this document and nothing else. Let me give you an interesting quote. When the government fears the people, there is liberty. And when the people fear government, there is tyranny. And I hope, and it is hoped, that you will keep this statement by Thomas Jefferson in mind with all your deliberations as supervisors of Calaveras County. Let me repeat that quote one more time, because I think Thomas Jefferson had this great ability to say a few things with few words that mean a tremendous amount. And I'm sure that a lot of people don't take the time to read some of this, but in this, also the Declaration of Independence, where the second paragraph talks about the right of the people to overthrow a government if things go bad. It's a beautiful written document. So let me repeat that and I will be done. When the government fears the people, there is liberty. And when the people fear government, there is tyranny. Thank you. Any questions?
Thomas Jefferson was not a signer of the Declaration
No,
of
he
Independence.
was. He actually helped create most of it.
No, James Madison
Well,
did.
no.
Yes.
John Adams. Oh, John Adams. Okay. Benjamin Franklin. Thomas Jefferson.
Right.
Put the Declaration of Independence together. John Adams and Jefferson were not present during the signing of the Constitution because one was in England and one was in France.
Correct.
But it is a wonderful document, and I hope you all take the time to read it because it is a great document. Thank you.
And it was done in
Thank you,
100 days. I used to teach the Constitution.
Like I said,
Good, Bill.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you, Rita, for the civics lesson. Okay.
We can't do a general plan in 100 days or in that short of those words.
Mr. Chairman, when did Tom try and sit for this portrait?
When did Tom try and sit for this portrait? I don't know.
Look at the similarities.
Okay. Yes, sir. Good morning.
That's when I had a full head of hair. Or a wig.
My name is Darrell Rusk. I live at 101 Melcher Lane in Burson.
What was the name again?
Darrell Rusk.
Okay, Darrell.
You'll have my name on top of a letter that I submitted. They were on each of your desks this morning. It's regarding the Trinitas, or Trinita. I need someone to tell me how to pronounce the name of it. So I'm here not to overthrow the government. I'm here to find out how to pronounce Trinitas.
Trinitas.
Anyway, I am actually in support of the project. I live close enough to that project that my water wells are in the same aquifer as theirs. I'm familiar with water concerns, especially when people see golf courses being irrigated. But there is a drawdown of our water tables in Calaveras County, and the drawdown is averaging almost a foot a year. And that's across the board.
How much, Darrell?
Roughly a foot per year in the water table. And that's actually quite a lot. But the drawdown isn't the result of any development within Calaveras County. The drawdown is primarily because of the demands for water in the San Joaquin Valley and the Bay Area, plus a drought that's affecting the western United States and has been for 15 years. There was an article in the Stockton Record last week, I think, where there was a quote indicating that 15 to 30 wells had to have been deepened or had other problems during the past year. And honestly speaking, that's not surprising. An awful lot of those wells are older. They weren't drilled that deeply in the first place. My own well had to be deepened, but not because of Trinitas. It was because of the water drawdown in the water tables. Most of my life was spent in Palm Springs in the Coachella Valley in Southern California. When I first moved there, there were a handful of golf courses, and they're beautiful. But since then, there have been over 120 new golf courses added within that area. The Coachella Valley is roughly the same size as the western Calaveras County. There are now almost 200. There are 196 golf courses in that area. They do very well. They're all irrigated. They are not irrigated with any water from Northern California because Palm Springs receives no Northern California water. That's just a pet peeve of mine because people sometimes are concerned about that. The Desert Water Agency in Palm Springs and the Coachella Valley Water District, Down Valley, did studies regarding golf courses and the drawdown of water tables. And what they found was, not surprisingly, when you put water in a golf course, the water drains back into the same aquifer that drained it out of in the first place. There's very little actual loss or net loss in an aquifer caused by a golf course. The budget process recently was pretty tight. I know it was tough for each of you because there were some hard decisions. I know the road department funds were tapped. I know that the sheriff's requests for additional sheriff's positions, including a sergeant, were not possible to add this year because of budget problems. I understand. And I know that sometimes the public will look at your positions and say, oh, yeah, it's easy, you just make your decisions. I know it's not easy. I know it's painful sometimes to make hard decisions. Well, projects like Trinitas, and I would recommend other projects like it in the Western County, offer a wonderful opportunity to increase tax bases, not only directly from the project itself, but also all of the supportive services for them. So if there were possible to market Calaveras County, particularly Western Calaveras County, for golfing, cycling, tennis, other sports, or even agritourism, it seems like those would be avenues to increase the tax base and lighten some of the burden on you when the budget process comes along. We heard a problem this morning about that. It would also help if I could remember what page I'm on. There are quite often, on weekday mornings, there's about an hour each weekday morning at Highway 12 and Highway 26 where there are very long lines. They stretch for over a mile, sometimes down 26, trying to get through the intersection. Traffic light would be nice, but they're terribly expensive. It would be nice to be able to afford an additional sheriff to act as traffic controller at that intersection for about an hour each weekday morning. With projects like Trinitas, the tax base would provide that. That's one of the reasons I'm supportive. I'm willing to volunteer my time, and I would encourage people who oppose the project right now to step up with me and look at other counties that have gone through transitional stages from rural to resort development communities, and look at what those counties have done. They have each approached their problems and their transitions uniquely for them, but they may offer insights to us on how we're going to deal with the next 15 or 20 years in this county. And so I would like a group, myself included, and like I said, I volunteer, to be allowed to look at those other counties and come back to you with suggestions or ideas for projects or directions for the future of the county. And I know that the general plan is being reviewed now, but this might be supportive of that. And I'm not looking at a long-term project. I'm looking at a few weeks to do that. I know that Calaveras County is developing a nascent wine industry, a very nice one, but one of the things that I get very tired of is hearing people complain, whine, and tear down everything that's brought up as an idea, or every project that comes along, or every leadership action that's taken. So I know this is wine country, but it's not wine country. So I support Trinitas, and I support other projects like it. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Is there any other member of the public that wishes to address the board on an item not on today's agenda?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Lou Mayhew. I'm here speaking for about 70 people of Keep It Rural Calaveras. Our main focus at this point is opposition to Trinitas. I hadn't really planned to speak at this juncture, but given the last speaker, I thought I would like to present some facts for the record. It's really 70,000 acre feet per year that the regional water table is being pulled down. The water situation at Trinitas is frankly unknown. I know of 11 surrounding wells within a mile that have had major problems develop over the last year and a half. 3 have had to re-drill their wells within the last 6 months. So you have a rather sudden onset of a lot of difficulties. If you expand the circumference, you probably do come up with closer to 30. Now that, I think you have to honestly say, it's an open question as to whether that's due to a lot of wells that are simply aging, or whether it's due to probably the 100 million gallons of water per year that the golf course is using. So water is just one pivotal issue in the discussion of whether that's an appropriate use of the land, a rezoning from agriculture to recreation plan development. There are many other issues there, and I limited time, but I wanted to respond to that last gentleman. I'm going to leave with you a copy of Condor Earth Technologies' look at the analysis in the DEIR. They found that the discussion that suggested there was no impact on the local aquifer is seriously deficient. It suggests that there are recognized ways to determine whether there's a local impact, and that those tests should be done. I think if you look at your own record, these kinds of tests were suggested up front in the EIR process. They were not carried out. I think they should be. We don't have to argue about it. We can find out, and it should be done. So I'd like to leave this for the public record. Certainly the whole issue of Trinitas, there are many, many issues as to whether or not that's an appropriate project for this area. But today I'll just limit my comments to response to that gentleman. Thank you.
Mr. McSorley.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Board of Supervisors. It is my hope that you have all received your official invitation to the groundbreaking for the Angels Camp bypass. It is this Friday at 1 o'clock down at the intersection of where Highway 4 comes into 49 in the city. And we are very excited about the project finally coming to fruition from when it first was discussed. I believe it was 1958. So
I missed it. What time is it, Tim?
1 o'clock.
Okay, thanks.
And we're working on, Caltrans is still working on the guest list, and we're hoping to see some very important dignitaries out there celebrating this important event. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other member of the public that wishes to address the board on an item not on today's agenda? Okay, I did have a letter emailed to me this morning or late last night from a Mr. Carl Gassner, and it was actually emailed to Supervisor Tryon and myself. You may not have seen it yet, but it also concerns the ridge at Trinitas, and so I just want to enter this into the record, and it'll be a public document. I'll give this to the clerk to put in the package for comments. And Mr. Carl Gassner and Laura E. Gassner in support of the project. Okay, that being it for public comment, we'll move along to item number 8, presentation of possible board action regarding mid-year report from the Ferguson Group regarding the status of current federal earmarks and review and discussion of project priorities for the next fiscal year.
Thank you. I'll introduce Christy Moore is here from the Ferguson Group. Christy helps us to develop our agenda for our earmarks every year. And Christy's here to kind of give you a report of where we're currently standing with our federal earmarks, and then also talk about procedures that the board would like to adopt for how we develop the next year's congressional priorities for Calaveras County. Christy?
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. It's always a pleasure to come and visit you. The drive up is quite nice. First of all, I apologize. Is that better? Thank you. I have a cold, so I apologize if I have to stop or stumble over some of my words. I basically wanted to give you a mid-year report. This year has been quite chaotic in the federal appropriations process, with new rules and regulation and heavier scrutiny on the appropriations process in general. It has been, there's new rules, new procedures that need to be met, And the basic synopsis is that it's brought the legitimate projects to the top of the list. So I see it as a good move, and that these new rules and regulations have actually gotten rid of the quote-unquote fluff projects that Congress has at times earmarked for federal funding. With that said, the county has always submitted legitimate and sound projects. This year for the FY 2008 process, the county prioritized 4 projects and has received so far in the process funding for 2 of those projects. This is actually a tremendous success rate compared to how other entities are doing throughout the country. The process has been much more competitive in FY 2008 than we have seen in other years. And your members of Congress have been extremely gracious to the county, and I think a lot of that has to do with the projects that you do present to them. Congressman Lundgren helped the county secure, now, mind you, we're only 2/3 of the way through the process, but we're at a pretty sound point, and I'm fairly confident that these projects will be actually written into law when the final bills are passed. But Congressman Lundgren has secured $375,000 for the Sheriff's Department for new technology. This is actually a carry-on over a project that was prioritized in the FY 2007 process that was not funded because Congress passed a continuing resolution that included no earmarks. The second project that has received funding in FY 2008 is, again, a priority from the Sheriff's Department. It's the OES, CDF, and the Forest Service Dispatch Center. That project is actually through the Department of Agriculture Rural Development Program. It's considered a soft earmark, which means a final dollar amount won't be designated by Congress. But after the bill is signed into law, the county will work with USDA to secure those funds. And in this project, with a $3.5 million need, you're most likely looking at a partial grant and loan. But I do imagine that part of that will be a loan from the county for the county to pay for that dispatch facility. And those negotiations will start after the bill is passed directly with the county and USDA, and somewhat of the same process that the CHIPS program used to secure the grant that they received a few months ago for that program, which actually was also earmarked last year in FY 2007.
Chrissy, under the dispatch, you're saying that's a soft earmark, but there will be funds after it is passed?
Yes, the difference between the $375,000 is considered a hard earmark because there's an actual dollar amount designated with it. USDA doesn't, when the Congress earmarks USDA money, they don't list a specific dollar amount. They let the entity that has the prioritized project work with USDA to determine how much the actual funds will be in that fiscal year.
So on the law enforcement
Yes.
system upgrade, the $375 out of the $1.35 million, that would then be up to the sheriff to find the difference?
Yes. And I believe that, well, this project actually received funding in FY 2006.
Right.
And one of the advantages of this project is because it's with, and I hope I'm not overstepping my boundaries here, because it's with, it will fund equipment, they can use $375,000. They don't need the full amount to actually fully fund the project. For example, I believe they received $150,000 in FY 2006. They were able to spend that money on the technology they needed for the program. It's an over-encompassing program that includes funding for a variety of different technology needs for the Sheriff's Department. Does that answer your question?
I'm just wondering whether the sheriff's going to get the balance of the money. And if he's not a problem, as long as it's not general fund, Sheriff.
So that's just a quick review of the successes that the county has seen so far in the FY 2008 process. The other 2 projects that the county prioritized, those being the Cosgrove Creek Flood Control Project, as well as the Intermodal Public Transfer Station, were, again, I think, let's just talk about Cosgrove. A lot of success and a lot of progress was seen on that project in coordination with the county as well as the Calaveras County Water District. And some of the restrictions that were in place on that project and the reason why the county hasn't been able to receive the funding from the Corps of Engineers are actually lifted in the current bills that are going through Congress. The House and Senate has actually lifted those restrictions. So once those bills are actually signed into law later in this fall, I really believe that Cosgrove will be able to receive funding in FY 2009 because the Corps of Engineers will actually have the ability to spend money on the project and appropriate money to that project. The Intermodal Transit Center, if you remember from last year in FY 2007, the project received $500,000 in the Senate transportation bill. However, because of the continuing resolution, those funds never actually came down to the county. Unfortunately, the Senate didn't prioritize it this year, and it didn't make the final cut list for FY 2008. The account that was targeted for that project was extremely competitive this year. We saw a lot less earmarks overall. However, you saw those earmarks were much larger. So again, I think this is a shift that will eventually benefit local communities because you'll actually be able to get a larger chunk of money and actually accomplish something with the federal dollars. So that's the synopsis there. Unfortunately, if it was last year, you would have received $500,000, but this year it doesn't look like the county will receive money for that project. If there are any other questions, I'll move on to 09. I know I'm kind of breezing through this, but... Okay, next year. One of the advantages that the new rules and regulation has in the appropriations process is that we have bills this year. For the first time in my 7 years of working in the appropriations process, I've never had all House and Senate bills at least reported out of committee before Congress took their August recess. That allows the county to plan for next year at a much earlier stage. If you remember in the past, sometimes we're in December and January, and we have no idea where the county's projects sit in the appropriations process. This year we do. So with that said, I highly recommend that the county start looking at next year's agenda, which would be for fiscal year 2009 now. My goal is to actually work with county staff to rehash their list of priorities. 3 years ago, when we started our relationship with the county, I actually went to a department head meeting, took all of their ideas and suggestions for priority projects, reviewed those, gave them to you to look at and prioritize, and that's how we began the process. I'm recommending that we do that again and that we really rehash the county's agenda and the county's priorities to present projects to Congress next year that are again sound and legitimate projects and have a federal nexus. Congressman Lundgren is very concerned about the federal nexus. He is very selective of the projects that he does prioritize. Again, he's prioritized 2 of your projects because you've been able to show and prioritize them as projects that should receive federal priority and federal funding. So I'll work with county staff, county administrator's office to work with the department heads to develop that list, as well as take any suggestions from the Board of Supervisors in terms of projects that are priorities to you. I know Supervisor Tryon has given me one of his suggestions already that was actually tabled from last year because it was a little late in the process by the time we got the information on it. Any ideas that you have, feel free to tell me now or
What
call
was
me.
Tom's?
Oh, don't tell her. No, you don't. It'll come when we have the 09 agenda before us. That's the Bar 20 roads for the communication towers that the board agreed to put on, and then it didn't make the cut in time.
Right.
So hopefully the board will resubmit that because you have all the backup at this point,
Yes.
I'm assuming. So I think it's just a question of resubmittal.
In addition to that, Christy, Supervisor Walensky couldn't be here today. Excuse me, but he called me yesterday and asked if I would lobby his CHIPS program, which has received acclaim, really. It's done quite well, and it is supported by both Senators Boxer and Feinstein and by Congressman Lundgren, as you're well aware, and it's ongoing and growing, actually. Their goal is to actually create a pellet factory here, either in the West Point area or perhaps down at the industrial area where the old cement plant is, and actually produce these pellets for combustion, for residential and other uses. They're really doing well, according to him. They're growing and working. They're just now negotiating a $185,000 contract for work for products that they're going to produce. And so the project needs this infusion of money in order to create the necessary jobs, and it's a really viable light industry. So he'd like to see that. I'm sure he'll be in contact with you, but it's very important. The CHIPS project is a real success story, and it's right at the point now where it needs the infusion of some capital support to attain its goal and become self-sustaining. So that'll be another.
I have that down on my list.
Oh, good.
Any others? If there's not, I don't mean to put you on the spot here. You feel free to call me or contact the county administrator with any suggestions or ideas.
You mean Mendocino Mitchell?
Yes. The other,
Just as a reminder that Ferguson Group, under contract with us, submits 4 to 5 projects for earmarks. That's what the contract specifically requires from. So as we go through this process, and Francine Osborne has been spearheads this project for us with Christie, along with Mike Walker from the Sheriff's Department for their particular projects. They go to Washington, D.C. every year. They know all of the players. But it's important for the board through this process to establish basically your 4 or 5 highest priorities for federal funding. So we may get 25 or 30 ideas and concepts out there, but the board will have to make the decisions which 4 or 5 are your highest priorities based upon recommendations from Christie about what she thinks we can be most successful for in Washington, D.C.
Okay. Anything?
Christy, on the Secure Rural Schools, is that the group that went back to Washington last week to lobby? Terry Woodrow, Supervisor Alpine was back, and I thought she said they were lobbying for that with a...
Yes, there was the annual fly-in.
Right.
Right. They do it every year, typically in September, right before the end of session. Secure Rural Schools, as I mentioned in my report, the newest development there is that there was a piece of legislation introduced at the very end of July. A hearing was held before the House Natural Resources Committee on Forests and Public Lands that would fully fund Secure Rural Schools as well as PELT. There are concerns and discussions being that surround the offsets that are proposed in that legislation. So I think that was something that they discussed in the fly-in, as well as trying to get that reauthorization in any sort of legislation that is guaranteed to go through Congress this year.
So we're not going to have to hopefully lobby every year, or do you see us?
Hopefully you wouldn't have to. Realistically, you may. As you know, the authorization actually expires this year. One of the emergency supplemental bills that passed for FY 2007 included funding for this year for FY 2007 only. So as of October 1st, which is the beginning of federal fiscal year 2008, there is no funding set for Secure Rural Schools. This new piece of legislation, H.R. 3058, would fully fund PELT and the Secure Rural Schools program through 2012. It's the only piece of legislation, or the main piece of legislation that's seen the most movement, but the concerns about the offsets, I think, will hold it up, are holding it up. There are other pieces of legislation that are introduced that haven't received the movement that 3058 has, but it includes a compromise that was actually proposed by Senator Craig and Wyden on the Senate side that was included in last year's supplemental to fully fund it and fully reauthorize it. But the offsets are actually coming from the creation or increase of commercial use fees on public lands. But the commercial use, quote unquote, has not been defined. So that's where the holdup is defining where the actual funding will come. It's $4 billion through 2012.
And I have one more, Bill.
Sure.
On the wagon trail, I keep calling it wagon wheel, the wagon trail realignment project, Tim McSorley's here of our Council of Governments. And we've been working really hard with Caltrans on that. So I'm hoping maybe if you could talk with the cog here, it just says county staff, so that we're all walking down the same path on this project.
Yes, and it was actually brought to my attention last spring that there was some discussions going on with Caltrans on how that money was being appropriated down to them. If you recall, that was actually one of the earmarks that the county received in the Safe TLU legislation 3 years ago. So that project, that bill is actually being reauthorized in the next 18 months. So that's one of the issues that we'll discuss there as the county prioritizes for the next round of the T-bills and the reauthorization of Safe TLU. So that is part of my discussions with the county, and as you suggested with CalCog, will be for next year's agenda.
Okay, thank you.
And I anticipate coming back to you in sometime in November for a final vote on the agenda, so that we have it set and ready to go in December, so we can start working these projects early. And hopefully we will have a clear understanding of where the $375,000 for the Sheriff's Department as well as the OES Dispatch Center stand at that point. It looks like at this, technically, Congress should have passed the bills by October 1st, but we're 2 weeks away. That's not going to happen. The Senate still has to move all their bills off the floor before they can even go into conference discussions. Realistically, we're probably looking at the first part of December to have a final decision on all the bills and passage. And hopefully the President will not veto any of them, because he has threatened vetoes.
Okay, anything else for Christie? Anybody?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christie. At this point, we'll move on to item number 9, review of correspondence, reports, and various matters of concern.
You want to do the addendums first?
Well, the addendums were... Oh. Yeah, okay. Sorry about that. 8A. Discussion of possible action, minute order approving contract for management transition services with Veros Resources in an amount not to exceed $100,000.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is just a contract for management transition services that our office has developed with Veros. County Council has reviewed the contract, and we feel it's appropriate as the interim CAO and the interim Public Works Director work together. We think we can achieve this large list of projects that are under the list of Section 1 for basic services and keep things moving along.
I'll move the item, Mr. Chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries on a 4-0-1. Moving on to item 8B, discussion of possible action regarding minute order approving land lease for slope construction at the Calaveras County Airport as part of the hangar taxiway project.
Thank you. And as the chair has pointed out, I do have a small correction to make, because I've called it a couple of times in both the agreement and the actual cover letter. I called it the top of the slope, and as the chair aptly points out, it is really the toe of the slope. So it's really the toe that's protruding into the property owner's property. Kathy Zancanella is here from the airport if we have specific questions. We've been working on this for a long period of time, and actually I'd say the project is very well along, probably be completed in the next week or so. All we'll do is at the end of the project, the surveyor will come out and determine exactly how far the dirt protrudes into the slope. But it's a fairly standard agreement, and again has been reviewed by council.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Is there a motion?
Move the minute order.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries on a 4-0-1.
Okay.
Moving on to item 8C, discussion of possible action regarding a minute order approving contract for architectural design and construction services with Knocht Lewis for the legal building court security improvements entry area.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This project originally started a number of months ago. The court for a long time has had a desire to add x-ray equipment to speed the processing and increase the safety of the court staff and also patrons of the legal building. As part of that, we've come up with a solution with what we'll call a vestibule area outside of that corridor that's underneath the roof area as you enter the building. As I've stated in the letter, there are a number of challenges that we're trying to accomplish. We do have trouble with drafts going into the building for court staff. This physical improvement will be designed in such a way it will benefit in the long-term ownership of the county. But as part of our agreement with the court's transfer that occurred several months ago with your board's support, we were able to secure, with the assistance of the local courts, a sum of money to be used toward this project. The county is contributing a portion of the funds. Once we actually do construction award, it's included in our certificates of participation calculation for a contribution in there. There have been a number of challenges, as there always are, working in this campus, but it's been complicated by how we deal with handicapped entry and handicapped exiting requirements. That's a little bit of a slope, as you notice, as you come into that building, so we have to construct a little bit of a ramp. We had a number of issues to go through with fire rating of the building and occupancy loads. So what originally started off as a very small, easy project just to add the vestibule out there because of building code requirements that are placed upon us and handicap accessibility items, it's turned in to be a little more complicated, but we still think it's a good project. Mike Corrick is here from Knockton Lewis and is the architect of record on this project if you have any other questions.
I have funding questions.
Me too. Go ahead.
It says build to capital project funded through the court's budget. So one, does that mean through the court designated fund, because capital projects are general fund money? That's one. And two, the $33,000 will be coming out of the COPs. If it's coming out of the COPs, then it's not coming out of the court designated fund.
Okay,
So
here's the technical part of how it works, and it's really, Shirley's going to be working with me to actually appropriate the money for these projects, but it's not the court's designated fund that this comes from a sum of money that was part of the transfer agreement that we were able to retain. Those monies will be appropriated into the capital projects fund with a revenue offset coming from that funding source. The $33,625 is part of the overall project. So the county's contribution is yet to be determined. That will be based upon the actual construction award of what it cost us to build it.
Okay, but Tom, this says in an amount not to exceed $33,000.
That's only for the architectural services.
Not, okay.
So once the project is developed, plans and specification are bid, we get a contract
So
amount, then we'll know what the final
So
amount
we're
is.
talking, when we say capital projects, we're talking about the county's capital projects, our prorated share of this facility.
That's correct, under our agreement with the court.
So this $33,000 is being paid for the architectural services by the courts and the county?
And the county.
And that's going to be prorated, but we don't know what the county's share of the $33,000 is.
That's correct.
And the actual construction cost, you're anticipating coming from the COP?
COP and the other portion from the cost. I believe Mary Beth is here. Was it about $150,000? Is that what? $135,000 is the court's contribution at this point from that money that we managed to successfully negotiate from the state. So at this point, the court's portion is set at $135,000.
Do we anticipate it's going to be that expensive?
The construction estimate, I think the construction dollars will probably be closer to $200,000 by the time you get done.
I mean, we are hoping to build a new court. And I know every budget year we go through trauma and drama with the state on getting money. So if 135 is the court's share of this portion of the building, and let's say the balance up to 200 is the county's share, are we putting more money into this building than we want to? We're hoping to get a new court within the next 2 or 3 years.
The benefit for the courts will really be the x-ray machine that they can install in there and have better exiting and better security control. The benefit for the county long-term, your board will continue to meet in these chambers. It will benefit this building for whoever the future occupancies. In our long-term master plan, we had identified after the courts move out that the Board of Supervisors would have offices in the back hallway. Human Resources would be where the courts staff is right now, their accounting staff is, and a couple of the courtrooms may be available for community use and or for other agencies such as San Andreas Sanitation, COG, and so forth for their use. So we're anticipating this will be a permanent benefit to this building and will be appropriately designed.
But the $33,000 that's on the agenda today will be out of capital project monies, not the COPs. My concern is I don't want to keep reading out of COP, out of COP. We set priorities for the COPs.
That's correct. In your sources and uses, we've talked about in the sale of the COPs, we have always included improvements to the legal building as part of that package your board will adopt once we know on October 11th what funding we generate from the sale of those COPs. So it's been part of the plan all along.
Okay.
Okay. Anything further? Is there a motion?
I move that we spend general fund money up to $33,625. I move this item.
No.
The contract for architectural design.
It's not general fund money.
It is general fund money, Tom. As in
Supervisor.
Tryon, capital project money is general fund money. We have chosen to put it into capital projects. I just need to...
But the court's paying.
No, this is for us, not for them.
It is a portion of each party will pay a portion of the total project cost. The architect fee is just part of the total project. And Supervisor Callaway always reminds us, and appropriately so, that tobacco money is general fund money that the board has chosen to allocate toward capital improvements, and teeter funds are also general fund dollars that the board by policy has designated toward technology. So when our office says there's no general fund impact, we're always talking about on the general fund on an annual basis. But the correct statement to make is all of these funds are really general fund dollars that the board can choose by policy how it spends, but not the court money.
Not the court money. And geez, you left out vehicle license fees.
All right.
How about TOT tax?
All right. I move the minute order adopting the contract for architectural design.
Okay, just for clarification, the $33,000, that's a maximum amount anticipated for total design fees for this $130,000 project?
Yes, that's correct.
That'll be $200,000 project.
200,000.
135 is coming from the court.
Is the 33,000 part of the 200,000, or is that?
Mr. Supervisor, we're estimating about $225,000 total construction cost. The architectural services are in addition to that.
Thank you.
So 250 something, 260.
Okay.
If we didn't have to deal with the handicapped issues and some of the other building code requirements, which are the legal requirements, we'd have a lot less cost for the project.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, the minute order has been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries on a 4-0-1. Moving on to item 8D, discussion and possible action regarding minute order authorizing administrative office staff assignments to various board-approved committees, commissions in lieu of county administrative officer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is just a cleanup item. As the county administrative officer, I represent the board on all of these various committees and commissions because sometimes there are votes taken at those particular commissions. I thought it appropriate to make these staff assignments and get your board to officially bless that these are the assignments and these people have the same basic voting rights as the county administrative officer. This would remain in place until you select a permanent replacement. I've done it this way purposely so that the interim CAO doesn't get involved with a series of meetings. This will be permanent county staff that will attend these meetings and represent the Board of Supervisors and the administrative office.
Okay. Any questions or discussions from the board? Okay. Is there a motion?
I move the minute order.
Is there a second to the motion to move the minute order?
Let's let it die.
All right, this minute order has been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries on a 4-0-1 absent. Is Francine left? I was going to move that around, but that's okay. How come I don't have that? E? Oh, the Animal Services Facility. Item 8E, discussion and possible action regarding consideration of alternative construction and financing plans for the Animal Services Facility.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first confession that I need to make is I've neglected, as in the spirit of being politically correct, I've neglected to inform Nocton Lewis that we don't call it an animal control facility. In all our reference to our documents, we're talking about animal control. It is actually an animal services facility. So I just want to make that public statement. That's so noted.
Euthanasia is a service now.
Tom, stop that.
I was just wondering.
Tom,
So,
we're going to be a no-kill shelter
yes.
after I take you there.
As part of
Moving right along.
moving right along, thank you. As part of our long-term strategy toward capital development in the campus here, as we like to call it, we've been working with Nocton Lewis on a number of different projects and always had in the back of our mind how were we going to tackle the animal services facility. Over the last year, at your board's approval, we've purchased the modular offices. We've installed them in their permanent home up on the hill. We've gone through, we've created a building pad up there for future building expansion, and also we're using temporarily for parking. We have upgraded all of the utility service up there. We've brought in new transformer from PG&E. We've taken all the appropriate steps to build our infrastructure. Our office has had contact and has had discussion with numerous developers who have proposed alternative construction methods to achieve this project. There are a number of people that are out there that can accomplish these kinds of projects. Again, in the long-term strategy of what we've been looking for in this project is really looking for a new facility for animal services within the challenges of having the appropriate funding for that facility. We've identified the animal services facility as a key component of our public facilities fee program that I think you'll be seeing in the next few weeks from Government Financial Strategies. The City of Angels has also tentatively agreed to participate in the public facilities fee program, and the animal services facility is again a facility that has countywide impact, that they have the ability to assist us with collecting fees. So part of our long-term strategy for funding this a new facility has always been that the use of public facility fees, which really is attached to the developers that develop in the community, both from the City of Angels and also from the county, would provide a revenue stream for this. That being said, there also needs to be an ongoing commitment for the county as a general fund contribution, as Supervisor Callaway would remind me, because we do have an obligation to provide our fair share of the cost of this facility. Mike Corrick is here from Nocton Lewis this morning. Mike has been working with us as we've gone through this for a long period of time. We've developed a privatization project delivery approach that we're talking about, and Mike can give you more particulars. We've given you a sample RFP, which the county would issue out, and it talks about points being assessed and so forth. So before my departure, I just wanted to introduce this concept to you, and if the board has an interest in pursuing it, we will continue, the administrative office would continue working toward the implementation of this. Again, there is some project money that's available, I think $100,000, Shirley, currently in the capital projects budget, and then we've also included $1 million for some startup costs in, again, the certificates of participation that we'll be bringing forward to you after October 11th. So we put some placeholder funding mechanisms here, but it was always the intent that the project, which we think is around a $3 million project total cost, which includes site improvements, drainage improvements to the road, repaving that entry road and so forth, we think the total project is about a $3 million project. The way it's currently envisioned is we would build the adoption side first, adjacent to the facility. The adoption side would be the new portion. We would then move the animals over to the adoption side. Then we would renovate the other side. So we would have two shelters, which is very common these days. One, which would be in the sheriff's vernacular, more the hardened facility, probably has the tier 1 through tier 4 inmates in there. And then once the tier 1 inmates, we would then put into the secure reentry facility that would be available for adoption. So,
Stop it.
This is animal services, isn't it, Tom?
They all things cross over one way or another. So with those kind of opening comments, I'll let Mike make a presentation and give you some of his thoughts as from an architectural
What's the amount of
standpoint.
money in here that we're talking about? I don't see it.
There is no money at this point. This is an introduction of the concept and to get some board direction, and then we would develop an
It
architectural.
says there's no current general fund impact for this contract, so I'm kind of looking for
I'm sorry, it should have been proposed contract. That was missing a word there. We don't have we haven't worked out the details of a contract because first we need to know if the board is interested. The traditional approach would be we'd come to you with an architect contract, develop, and then the county would provide its own financing. So let Mike kind of make his presentation.
Before we go to Michael, let me ask some clarifications here. It was my understanding in reading some of the documentation from, I think it was the Humane Society, they were talking about a joint facility with Tuolumne County. Is that off the table at this point?
Tom,
I defer to Marita.
That's way off the table. I mean, that would be like so far down the road, 25, 30 years. I mean, Tuolumne is not interested at this point in doing a joint facility with Calaveras. Amador is currently in the process of building their new shelter. But that's...
Well, I think I read that here fairly recently, like in the last couple of weeks. So.
Well,
it's not something, perhaps the sheriff knows, but not
it's not on the table.
something
There's nothing definitive. No.
Dennis, did you hear anything about that? I've not heard anything.
No, nothing.
I have not through a Humane Society.
And Mike is also involved in some other animal shelter projects through his firm, so we think he has the expertise to do this also. So,
Is he
Mike,
doing are you doing the Amador project?
We're doing the Lake County project that's currently under construction, and we've been selected by Sutter County to design their new facility as
to do
well.
this. Okay, thank you.
So Mike, I'll turn the floor over to you, and if you want to make a presentation, give me your thoughts.
Okay.
Mike, just for clarification,
Yes, sir.
for the record, just state your name so that it's on.
Yes, my name is Mike Korick. I'm president of Nocton Lewis Architects in Sacramento.
Thank you.
You may have heard through various sources of public-private partnerships, P3 for shorthand. It's a process that isn't new to public sector entities. School districts have been using it for a number of years, primarily through terms such as lease-leaseback. It's a process that proved to be very successful for the Natomas Unified School District in Sacramento, where they used a process very similar to the one that we are proposing here to Calaveras County, wherein Natomas Unified selected Nocton Lewis to design a new $57 million high school for them. We went through, designed the project, prepared construction documents. We were the district's architect throughout the entire process. The district solicited proposals from developers, brought on a developer who provided low-cost, tax-exempt bond financing to the district. They entered into a long-term lease agreement with the district. A general contractor was selected and constructed the project. It was delivered 1 month ahead of schedule, and the contractor and developer were able to return $1.5 million back to the district. So that project proved to be very successful. There are numerous other examples of school districts that are using similar processes. Counties haven't used this process to any great extent thus far. The state has. In fact, the Administrative Office of the Courts is looking at this exact type of process for their Long Beach courthouse. In fact, they are in the process of selecting a consultant to advise them on this public-private partnership type process. So it's not a new process. It's fairly well used in Europe. It is somewhat new here in the United States. But you're going to be hearing more about it because it's going to be becoming more prevalent, because it taps into the private sector and their expertise in project delivery, also sources for financing. As you're well aware, public sector entities have a very difficult time generating sufficient funds and delivering projects in a timely manner with the funds available to them. So teaming up with the private sector, there are tremendous opportunities for public sector entities to deliver facilities to their constituents in a timely and cost-effective manner. So what we are exploring and proposing with the Animal Services Facility is a very similar approach to what we did with the Natomas Unified School District, wherein animal services facilities are somewhat specialized in the expertise required to design them. There are numerous mechanical and plumbing and other requirements for such facilities. So our recommendation is the county retain an architect that will work in their best interests, work with animal services staff, design the facility according to the county's requirements, put forth an RFQ, RFP to development teams to provide financing for the project, and also bring a general contractor to the table. The architect would continue with the county, working with the developer, working with the general contractor to develop a guaranteed maximum price during the construction documents phase. Once a guaranteed maximum price was established, then the county could enter into lease negotiations with the developer for a long-term lease for the facility. Once that is agreed upon and the permits are secured from the building department and other agencies, then construction could commence. The developer's general contractor would construct the facility. The county's architect would provide their normal construction administration services to ensure that the facility was built according to the contract documents. And at the conclusion, the county would then occupy and operate the facility for a specified term as defined in the lease agreement. And at some future date, then the county would have the opportunity to purchase that facility for themselves. The benefit from a financing standpoint is the county is not providing the financing for the facility. That is solely upon the developer. Therefore, the developer takes all the risk associated with the financing. The facility is off of the county's books, doesn't tap into your debt capacity, and that pretty much summarizes the benefits for the financing portion.
But they get the municipal rate, interest rate for
There are
construction.
developers that have expertise in public sector type financing.
Okay.
For instance, the developer who did the Intercom High School, he was able to secure tax-exempt bond financing for, at the time, 1.6%.
And secondly, obviously, it seems to me that the significant cost saving comes because it's a private sector project and they're not paying prevailing wage and all the other things that government.
Unless that's a requirement of the county, yes.
So it won't be long before the labor unions will get something through Sacramento to stop that.
Except, Tom, you and I have had this discussion. Prevailing wages for this county does not mean the Bay Area, and there's nothing wrong with.
No, but it means a lot more money than the private sector would pay for the same project.
Well, I have some questions.
Okay. Mike,
Yes.
is there a typical length of time for this lease? I'm just curious. The long-term lease at the end of which we have the option to purchase.
The state right now is requesting solicitations from developers for a large state office project in Sacramento. They're asking for various time frames, 5, 10, 15, 25 years, where they would have the option to purchase a facility. So
it's negotiable.
It's negotiable as far as, if the county feels that they might want to purchase a facility in a sooner time frame than, say, a 25 or 30-year time frame, they'd have that opportunity to do so.
On the bond financing, does not the counties or the cities or wherever have to do a guarantee on that for them to get a municipal rate?
The developer goes into the private equity markets, and they are providing all of the financing.
Okay. If we do I like the concept. I mean, I am supportive of this concept. But if we do a lease, long-term lease, then that means the general fund will be incurring an additional cost of a lease payment.
Correct.
Every year.
Yes.
Which we do not have now, or which we would not have if we paid for it. So
paid cash for it.
That, we don't have, I'd love to pay cash, but we don't have the money
Yeah, I mean,
to
we
do
borrow
that.
and make the debt service, or we pay them for it.
Yeah.
So,
If you use the $3 million target figure that we're using and you did a
Right.
20-year lease, you'd be looking at a general fund contribution of about $150,000 a year, somewhere in that term. And public facility fees, in my opinion, will pay at least half of that debt service. And that's really, I shouldn't call it debt service, part of that lease payment. So I really think that ultimately you might be looking at $75,000 a year is what you would be paying out of the general fund.
That would be a lease purchase.
it's a lease purchase.
Here's another thought you want to think
You're just
about.
buying it.
This option does give you an opt-out, so to speak, because if the county and the developer cannot agree upon a lease agreement based on your financial analysis of the lease versus what the county could finance, say, for doing the project themselves, with the architect on board, the county will already have construction documents. They'll have a guaranteed maximum price from that contractor. Now, if the county can't reach agreement with the developer on a lease agreement, there's nothing to prevent, and this would be spelled out in the lease agreement, that the county would have the opportunity to do so, that they could therefore then go out to bid with those documents and then finance the project themselves.
So we'd have an either or.
You'd have an opt-out.
Except the reality is this will be on county land.
Correct.
So,
And
I
typically
mean,
what
you
happens,
either,
I'm sorry.
oh, no, go ahead.
No, typically what happens is the county basically subordinates that property to the developer because the developer is not legally allowed to build on another entity's property.
Could you go through that one more time?
What
We
typically
just gave all our buildings as collateral.
What typically happens is the public entity will, in essence, lease the property to the developer for, say, $1 a year. So then the
It's a typical subordination agreement.
Yeah.
Now, Mike, let's talk about timelines from if the board gave direction to pursue this project. When do you think we could have cut the ribbon, so to speak, of a new animal services facility in the ideal scenario? How much would it knock off a typical construction, typical county project, let's say?
I'm not sure you're going to save a tremendous amount of time versus the normal design bid build. What you're trading is you're going to go out with an RFQ, RFP to development teams in lieu of going out for bids at the back end of your construction document phase.
Okay.
Overall, I would suspect that I had done a preliminary schedule when we first began talking about this, and we were assuming perhaps getting started this month or the latter part of last month. I was anticipating that the project could be completed by probably May of '09.
That's pretty quick. Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of questions. Michael, you said that your firm designed a facility that's currently under construction in Lake County?
Correct.
How does the overall size of that facility compare to what we were looking at here?
That's a bit smaller, yeah.
Okay,
Lake County's facility is being built for about $1.4 million. Yeah, we're looking at about a $3 million facility here. So much smaller square footage, much smaller need in Lake County.
Will ours have a sign over the door that says Marriott or something like that? So, no, I'm not comfortable with just kind of going forward with this thing. The $3 million for an animal services facility without seeing the footprint of the thing, the methodology of construction materials and stuff. I need more information before I can jump in and throw my support behind this.
Okay, this is simply to give direction with the concept for the alternative construction financing plans. It's really not making a decision to spend the money or authorize anything at this point. Yeah, just going to submit in order to give direction to staff to go further and look at it, bring it back to us.
Yep. Russ, we would return, our office would return to you with the board with a contract for professional services to engage the architect, basically. And no matter what we do, we need to come up with a design, as you say, and work on the total project. Then the difference is, in the meantime, we could be preparing the documents such that we could go out and get alternative financing. One of the reasons this project is a higher cost is because there are a lot of issues that we've included in the project. That road going up to the animal services facility has numerous drainage issues. The road's falling apart. We anticipate creating an area for people to exercise the dogs up there. So this is really, it's not a Marriott, but it deals with a lot of the physical constraints of the property that need to be addressed. Paved parking, right now we have gravel parking, there would be paved parking up there and those issues. So I think it is a larger footprint, but really what we're talking about today is if your board is interested in pursuing it, then our office would work with Nocton Lewis about an architectural contract, then move forward with this concept of how we're going to finance the facility. Ultimately, there's no money to build a new animal services facility in the county treasury or in the county's capital improvement budget. There's not sufficient funds to build a new facility. This is a way that we think we could accomplish that for the county and in a very relatively short period of time.
When is the financial services report supposed to come back on the capital facilities fees?
Once let's say they're called public facility fees, I believe that's scheduled to come back in about 3 or 4 weeks. We're being very careful about that. Really has to have a nexus component, and we want to make sure the costs are accurate. So it should be no more than 3 or 4 weeks. The board would discuss that issue. Then there would be negotiations with the City of Angel about adopting those same fees. Of the multitude of fees that under public facility fees we originally identified, we're only going to be bringing forth 2 fees to the board. One, a public facility fee for jail facilities, and another one for animal services, because those are the 2 that I think we can demonstrate the need. We have actual costs that we can defend, and that the City of Angels is interested in participating in also.
Well, maybe you could explain to me why, without having in place the mechanism that we could use to collect the fees to make either the lease payment or the capital expenditure, that we're absent that. we're absent a specific design other than this $3 million proposal. And even though we're absent that, we're authorizing the potential to go out and talk to a developer to help us build this non-defined facility. Aren't we putting the cart before the horse?
Well, before we move forward, we do have to have a design. And we would, no matter what, you're going to have to engage an architect to come up with the design. At that point, once that design is solidified and the board approves that design, then you would go out to bid for the financing component of it. We're just kind of, I think, we have to move forward and make some decisions here, and ultimately whether or not you build it will be a board decision, but first we have to design it and tell you what it's going to cost and so forth. So the steps would really be, the next step would be engage the architect to develop a design for the facility, working with the Sheriff's Department. And then there'll be different trigger points along the way where the board needs to make certain decisions in order to proceed. Eventually, you'll be at that point where by the time you need to make a decision whether to go out for private financing or do it yourself, by that time the board will have adopted, I'm comfortable, a public facility fee. Design will probably take, what, Mike, 4 or 5 months easily to do design docs?
Yeah, but we could certainly do a pre-design phase, because I understand that the board would like to get some handle on the construction cost for this facility. So we could certainly enter into like a conceptual design effort with a preliminary construction cost.
Well, I'm a fairly practical-minded person, and if you have a facility that's under construction in Lake County, and I'd like to look at that $1.4 million facility and find out if there's a way that we can take advantage of the fact that you've already designed that and augment it incrementally so that we could build it for $1.7 million or something. Instead of starting at completely at square one, let's take advantage of some of the work that has already been done. I mean, one of the
complexities with your facility is we are planning on this as a 2-phase construction process, where we are building the first phase, which is a new facility, transferring the operations and animals to the new facility, and then renovating the existing. Lake County is an entirely new facility. So with any remodeling project, there's always going to be extra costs involved.
Well, my name is Thomas, so I tend to be doubtful. But I don't know. What we have in front of us here is that we're going to a possible action for consideration of alternative construction and financing plan. That to me means you're going to enlist the counsel and the aid of a developer or group of developers. I mean, if we say, yeah, let's go ahead, we'll enter into discussions with people, and I'm submitting that that's premature.
And it is. We will not do that portion of it till the design is done and the board approves a design for the facility and the construction cost. We're just trying to assure the board, before you take that first step of designing a facility and spending the money, there is a way to accomplish, in our opinion, there is a way to build the shelter at a minimum risk to the county. We just want the board to be fully informed up front that there's 2 ways you can do it. You could use the traditional approach and try and come up with the funding, or here's an alternative approach where you use developer financing for it. But none of those 2 things will happen until we select an architect, and there are various trigger points for actions before that. Yes.
Okay. Well, kind of borrowing what you were talking about before about the levels of security and stuff, we don't have a cap on our population at the animal service facilities.
That's true.
Okay, so is there any real urgency here about?
Well, we just spent numerous sums of money out of our general fund building and grounds budget because the facility is deteriorating so rapidly. There are problems with the roof. Sheriff's Department is going through and renovating cages at this time. It is a very antiquated, high-cost facility to operate, and we just our office has been working for the last 5 years, it's been a board priority to do something about that animal shelter, and we think it's appropriate that move forward with a plan now that we have the certificates of participation for some of the upfront costs that we're looking for.
I still haven't got all my questions answered, but anyway, I'm not prepared to move the action. But,
Okay. Dennis Downham, the Sheriff's Department has been awarded the management of animal services. I just wonder if you have any thoughts on this, since it's your department that's going to be involved.
Well, I think certainly some of the criticisms, some of the the studies we've had done, we certainly need a shelter, and that needs to be in our plan. I thought this today would look specifically at an option for finance. I know that we did develop a preliminary plan to add on to and renovate the old shelter, which apparently would not really meet all of our needs. I think it's very, very necessary that we get a shelter built. I mean, you have to understand, folks, before you so graciously gave me that place, I didn't pay much attention to it. I didn't know what the passion people had for that. The Calvert County Sheriff's Department had not shot and killed anyone since 1904. We had 2 incidents that involved us killing people in about 5 months to a year or so. I didn't get one letter to the other. I didn't get any criticism. I got nothing. We accidentally killed the pet of the week, and people wanted to recall. It is a very, very serious matter with a lot of people that animal shelter be fixed and appropriately staffed and managed and all those things. I would highly encourage this board to look at options for building that. I mean, certainly a board's decision whether we can afford to do it at this point, or if this option that's presented to you is the option you want to look at for financing. I would seriously ask you to consider making it a priority to build the shelter. But I mean, as far as this option goes, this financing option, Bill, I don't know anything about it. I'm not a financial guy.
Well, I'm not either, but it seems to me, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're not authorizing any design or money at this point.
No, if your board is interested in pursuing it, the next step would be our office would negotiate basically with Knockton Lewis, and we develop a contract for architectural services, the board with various trigger points in that agreement for when certain deliverables are given, when the board has to authorize going to the next level. So as Mike was saying, step one would be give you some preliminary schematic designs, give you some layouts, then you'd approve that, then we'd move forward with some other design. So today, the direction which would be helpful to us is if you would like us to move forward with that contract, that would get you started. By the time you get down the road in that, I'm sure this board will adopt some public facility fees. I'm confident that will happen. And then at some future point, you'll have to make a decision. Do you want to do the facility through county funds or do some more certificates of participation, or do you want to pursue alternative financing? So,
as the subject near and dear to my heart, since I have been pushing it for years, we do not have a facility. We can talk about saving money. We have not saved money over the years to build a shelter. The shelter is not safe. There's electrical hazards there. There's health hazards there. I guess this county is not in the same position it's been where we could save money and build something. Those days are gone. And just the fact that we're going out for COPs is an example of what we're doing, of stepping outside of what has been an extremely conservative financial policy of this board. which I have supported. At this point, though, we need to move on, and I like the idea of thinking differently. It's worked other places. I mean, I think Russ's concerns will be answered as we move through this process. Mr. Court said we will have in the contract an opt-out clause if the county decides they want to fund it ourselves versus have private funding. I thought I understood that's what you said. I feel like this is the closest we've ever gotten to getting something besides a new transformer and a trailer for the staff. It's just that facility, you take people through it, it's like taking them through the jail. It's abysmal what we put the staff through both in the jail and at the shelter. So I'm very supportive of giving staff direction to look at alternative construction and financing. As I understand, this would be, if we proceed down that path, which we have another opportunity later, it would be a turnkey operation on Calaveras County land. And we have options to be able to look at the design and to take into consideration what some of Russ's concerns are. But if we don't take a first step forward, we're just going to be back to selling cookies to try and raise money, and it isn't working. So I move the minute order.
Is there a second?
I'll second it for the point of discussion, because I have some.
Okay. The minute order has been moved and seconded. Discussion being?
I guess I have a lot of the concerns that I think Russ has expressed. I'm concerned about borrowing, basically, and it is a borrowing, whether it's off books or on books. It's a borrowing. I'd rather be on the book, but I understand the necessity for the financing package and getting away from prevailing wage. So I'll be interested when it comes to the animal control facility if Maria says, oh no, the county should do it so we can pay greatly additional costs for prevailing wage. But be that aside, if the citizens basically say we're going to borrow $30 million or a tax here, excuse me, it's a bond, right?
Yes.
It's a bond, so we're going to have to make repayments there. So I'm concerned about just how much borrowing we're going to do. If that $30 million goes through, then quite frankly, I have severe reservations about, well, let's just add another $3 million on or do a $3 million borrowing off the books for an animal control facility. I seconded the motion because depending on the cost of architectural services, and I'm very interested in what that is, I think it might be a good idea to go ahead with the architectural services and to find what our objective is, and then basically look for grants or go to foundations and see if we can get some money. It seems to me that there's got to be some money out there someplace for animal controls. I mean, there's so much emotion around it, as the sheriff has pointed out, that it seems to me that maybe we can do some outside financing. I say that because we're only going to be able to borrow so much money here, and I'm not willing to just sort of, and this is going to be, will have to be paid by facilities fees. Well, we don't know what's going to happen with construction either. So, I mean, construction is having its sort of down moment at the present time. We have no idea when it's coming back or how strong it will be when it comes back. So, we're saying, well, we'll get half of it from new construction facilities fees, and that's a variable. That's not a known as to what construction activity or what level of construction activity we're going to have in future years. So depending, I will vote for this now in the sense that a little bit of Russ's arguments is a chicken and the egg. Well, we don't have it, so we don't know what we're voting on. Well, we're not going to have it and know what we're voting on until we do the architectural services to determine, you know, what the needs are. So I'm not against that as long as the architectural services aren't a whole bunch of money, and I'm interested in what the shelf life of that will be. I'm interested in if we do that up here, if we have to do an environmental review, and if so, what the cost of that environmental review will be. And I certainly don't want to borrow the money if we don't, if we don't pass muster on an environmental review, because I understand we have to do an environmental review for all the Justice Center. So I'm assuming we'll have to do an environmental review for this. So I think there's sort of a lot of questions, and I'm not, I'm still, quite frankly, hung up a little bit on roads. The board just took $700,000 and put it in the general fund that went to roads historically out of the vehicle license fees. We still haven't done the other half of the road mitigation fee. And quite frankly, I think roads come before an animal shelter. I think sort of human needs sort of come before dogs and cats, even though my wife would disagree on her 2 cats, and I'd probably disagree on my dog. But I think everybody else's animals are different. But so there's going to have to be some prioritizing here of kind of where we're going with all this, what level of debt we're going to undertake. I mean, Brian comes in and the board gives indication to him that, we'll go out and we'll go out for a tax for a vector control program. Well, we only can borrow so much and back so much here, and I think we better be very, very critically focused on what our priorities are. And even if we do a capital facilities fee, it seems to me, and I don't know legally, so I'll look to Jim Jones when the discussion comes a little bit, but it seems to me you would say that all the money will go to the jail until the jail is met, and then you'd start funding whatever your second priority and then your third priority. And where animal control facilities fall in that, I don't know, because haven't seen a list of capital facilities priorities. And if that's the case, then you're going to basically, finish the jail. We're doing the new courthouses, and we're doing, we want to finish all this, so you're going to dedicate it all there initially, and then you're going to come back to priority 2. And what's the time behind there before you get to priority 2? And for the sake of argument, say it's the animal control facility. Well, that still puts it off a fairly significant component of time. I don't think my thought when we discussed this before on capital facilities fees is that we would just sort of list a whole bunch of things like we did on the RIM program, and we would collect a certain amount of money, and we would be able to reprioritize, just like we are able to do within the RIM program. Once the money gets collected, we can reprioritize if we so choose, and it isn't just locked into each individual project. So I'm kind of curious as to when.
Yes, it is locked into each individual project. Public facility fees are collected project specific. So you cannot reprioritize. Once you establish a public facility fees for animal services, that money is dedicated toward an animal services facility based on what your needs are, and in the long run, there are time limits. If you adopt a public facility fee, Jim could probably help me out, but I think currently if you collect money today in 2007, you need to spend that money by 2012. There's a 5-year time limit where the money sort of moves along. Is it 5 years? 5 years. It is 5 years, thank you. And then there are some administrative costs you can take out of the program. There's an annual reporting requirement of what you're doing with the funds and so forth. You can, for instance, one of the components we've suggested to the board is a public facility fee for new sheriff substations. So the board would identify where you think you want to build sheriff substations with recommendations of the sheriff, and then through the annual review, you might say, well, we're experiencing more growth in Copperopolis. That becomes our highest priority, but the funds are allocated toward the sheriff substation overall. You may have 5 of them that you're talking about doing, and you can reprioritize there, but the money is dedicated for purpose specific.
Okay, well, I don't mind moving it forward at this time, but I'm just saying that I have lots of questions and reservations before I commit to a project.
Well, if we can have the motion basically to give direction to the county administrative office to work with the architect and develop a contract with the appropriate trigger points, I guess I would call it, so the board can make decisions along the path. Then we can bring the item back to you. I don't want to scare you about the $3 million figure, which is... sorry about that. My
$30 million figure.
Well, my experience in Calaveras County makes me very hesitant. As we did the administrative office building remodel over the last few years, where most of our elected officials are, we found electrical panels which had not been serviced in over 20 years. Which we thought were a fire hazard. We found basically scabbing of electrical off existing lines. The current project we're dealing with the sheriff's facility and the jail having to do with the transfer switch, some of that installation was not done to code. So everything we do I'm hesitant about, and I always include a larger number because what's here right now has so many problems because of the way it was developed since 1960 that I basically always include funding that. And so there is funding for a road, there is funding for drainage improvements. This is really giving you a complete project, so the costs are higher. If I had a piece of flat ground that already had parking on it and we were just constructing a building next to that, it would be a whole lot less cost. But the problem is everything we do in Calaveras County, first of all, we have to redo the infrastructure that was there to make sure it's appropriate. So that is my worst case scenario lecture, and I don't mean to scare you by it. Mike and I will work on some harder numbers based on square footage. I will tell you the original proposal we had was significantly less than that, but when we've included the total project cost and contingencies and eventual inflation, it gets you to that number as our most conservative case. So that's just my caution. Don't read into $3 million as we're doing a grand project. This will be a project that meets the needs of the sheriff. It's not grandiose by any stretch of the imagination.
Okay, so we're still on discussion. I am nervous about the architectural program. I mean, I'm familiar with the facility. I've taken a tour of that. It's concrete block construction. The whole facility could be gone in an afternoon. And I think that spending money to retrofit what we've got out there is questionable. In my mind, the logic of doing that is very questionable. So. I can support the motion if we will mutually agree that we kind of give me an opportunity to be brought up to speed on that, because I haven't seen any of this. Yeah. And I think that if you talk about a choice of spending $1.5 million and taking the other $1.5 million and building some sheriff's substations around the county, I would. If we can provide an adequate facility. What's the population of Lake County? Is it comparable to Calaveras County? If they can build a facility, a usable and adequate facility for $1.4 million, why do we have to be so grandiose with our expectations? I don't know. I just have some
big dogs.
Big dogs? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. A lot of it does come into the site constraints that you have, but certainly if we pursue this alternative approach, if at the end we come up with a $2 million project and a developer finances a $2 million project, it'll be based on an architect's estimate. Your board will review plans and specifications, construction materials, and so forth. We did do an evaluation at one point last year. of a remodel versus knocking down that facility, it's still in our list as an option. We just need a place to house the animals while we're building the first phase, which is the adoption side, which would be multi-use until we then build the whether it's a remodel or construction new of the holding facility, I guess I would call. So your concerns are very appropriate. We're just, we'll address all of those in the contract and make sure there's trigger points for you to address those issues.
So if I vote for this, I'll have a chance to look at the plans, right?
You will have,
Yeah, there won't be any plans until we authorize this expenditure of money to create plans.
schematic, there'll be, what you're familiar with, there'll be some schematic preliminary sort of issues. What would you call them, Mike?
Program.
Schematic, sort of conceptual of what the building's going to look like, the footprint of the building, give the board some options. Once your board approves it, then you go to the next step of the contract, and all along the way you make decisions about what we're doing. And you'll want to, of course, always involve the Humane Society and the sheriff in the discussions too. And that'll all be included in the contract price that the architect will have to meet with all those parties.
I will second the motion, Mr. Chair.
Call for the vote.
You didn't have any. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'll support the motion.
Thank you.
Motion carries on a 4-0-1. Okay. So I see that oh, yeah. That's a little late. We could do our study session now and move the closed session to the end.
You want to take a break and then...
Okay.
Do number 9.
Why don't we order lunch, because I think the closed sessions are going to go on, and we're back here for
Board of Equalization.
Are we not?
We are. I don't know. Francine, do you have an estimate on time?
Well, we have Trinitas in closed session, so that's going to take a while.
Okay, and you have the Trinitas.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why don't we
do
order
that?
some lunch, and then we
Okay, we'll have to
talk
do-
about Trinitas over lunch.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
The correspondence portion, when lunch is
In a minute. We haven't done it yet. We won't leave before we do it. But could I have a 5-minute recess, Mr. Chair?
Pardon me? Pardon me?
May I have a 5-minute recess?
Yeah, we'll take a 5-minute recess. Okay.
Now we're doing correspondence, right?
You're the
Right.
shining star, Tom.
Who?
You.
Which Tom? I am?
He's the
You are.
shining star.
Yeah.
What's this say?
Okay, Tom,
Okay.
let's move it.
We're going to,
What is this? What's
it's
this?
been there for a year,
Been where?
right behind you.
Oh, for Christ's sakes. Rita must have turned it around and put it up against the wall.
Item number 9
I'll
on
leave it
today's
here for Mr. Walensky.
Item number 9 on today's agenda is
No,
to
for
review
God's sakes,
correspondence,
it wasn't
reports, and
exclusive?
various matters of
Sorry.
concern.
Will
You
it
have,
be?
yes, matters of concern.
A couple items, Mr. Chair. I will be attending the RCRC annual meeting, which is up in Napa, and I'm going to go to Senator Cox's luncheon at Greenstone or Greenhorn, and then take off for there. And I'll probably try to leave early from the meeting, which will probably be very early, because I'd like to be back for the 1 o'clock dedication of the Highway 4 bypass. But if for some reason I don't make it, it's because I got stuck on RCRC business in Napa. So don't let them badmouth me because I'm not there, Tim. Just don't let Marita speak for me.
It's already in the speech.
Okay. And the other thing is, I had a call from Buck King, and apparently, not apparently, tomorrow, Wednesday, right? Tomorrow they have the chamber, well, it's Discover Calavera, so it's not a chamber thing, it's a, lodging
Visitor center.
association.
Yeah.
It's a lodging association deal at Milarosa on, out of, half mile out of Vallecito on Paris Ferry Road. And he wanted me to be certain to make sure that the board realizes they're all invited. Apparently he's putting on
We all
some...
get cards on it.
But, well, he called me personally, and I told him
called
I
me
would,
too.
I would mention, apparently he's in some skit, and he very much wants an audience to put on his performance. So he called me. I told him I'd bring it up under correspondence, and I have.
That's at 5 p.m. tomorrow?
That is Yes, 5 p.m. network and refreshments, 5:30 p.m. brief presentation, and at 6 o'clock a show. I think Buck must be the show. Or his group anyway.
All right.
So that completes my comments, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Maria.
Yesterday I went to behavioral health and saw their new facilities and their arrangements. They have a graduation ceremony on October 15th, so I'm hoping the board will go and be supportive of that. I will be at the Discover Calaveras, since there could be more than, of course it's a public event, doesn't matter. Same with the chamber, I'll be there, but that's a public event. I will be at the groundbreaking, and I will possibly be at the Planning Commission meeting on Thursday night. But that's all for, those are all public, not for appointed.
Second?
Yes.
Okay, Russ?
I just want to report that we had a lively discussion at the LAFCO meeting last night about perfecting water rights in Calaveras County. I'm encouraged by the participation of the other districts in those discussions. It's looking like that people are recognizing that we should start working together instead of all independently. Did you think that was a good meeting?
Yes, and I think it's really very critical that we work closely with CCWD and their consultants. They've hired several consultants to do quite a bit of work on water issues, and we get those incorporated in the general plan update. We had a discussion earlier about their financial contribution to the water element, and according to Ed Rich, he said they had committed $50,000. I think that was the amount he said, as a cash contribution to the water element update. I don't think that goes against having their consultants talk to us or anything, or staff people. So we need to make sure that we hopefully hold them to that and get it incorporated in our update process.
Okay. The next meeting of that to discuss those water issues will be in November, and of course the next LAFCO meeting is on October the 15th. Yeah, that's right, October 15th. The only other board function that I'll be attending this week will be the bypass opening, and I'm pretty sure that I'll be able to make it to the Cox luncheon on Thursday as well. But that's it for my activities.
Thanks, Russ. I have tomorrow at 10 a.m. in the CCWD boardroom, the camera board, which is the Calaveras Amador McCollum River Association, one of the many associations. I'm going to try to get up to the Miller Rosa event with you folks, the chamber luncheon on Thursday, the Highway 4 bypass, and the Habitat for Humanity dinner in Murphy's Park on Saturday. And that's it for me. And Mr. Mitchell.
Well, we had a dedication on Saturday. Unfortunately, most of us were out of town and we didn't have any representation there, but we did dedicate the hospital cemetery memorial that was done by the Clampers. It did a very nice memorial. If you do get a chance, head up to Gold Strike over there where the gym is and take a look at the monument. I passed around a picture earlier. They did a terrific job. Julia Costello was there, Mike Miller was there, and
Our new Public Works Director?
no,
Mike Miller, not Michael Miller.
yeah, we call them MM1 and MM2.
There you go.
So,
MM1
but
and
it was a nice dedication, and I think the Enterprise, I don't see them here, I think they're doing a story on it today, and it is registered as a historical monument with the state of California now recognizing that cemetery and the paupers that are there. So nicely done by all those involved. GIS staff for the county did some nice work on grave location, and I'm hoping somebody continues to build on that project over the next few years. So, and
Thank you. Jim?
I'm working at the Habitat function on Saturday with Skip Batchelder and Jim Heminger. We're cooking a bunch of chickens.
So why does it take...
Chicken? And I've agreed to go to that, and you're cooking chicken?
So how come you get 3 or 4 people to cook the chicken and I get to cook the ribs alone?
Because you're much better experienced, better cook than we are.
Oh, yeah, you're the politician.
It's all right, Bill, because everyone will be eating ribs. Are these beef ribs or pork ribs?
I'm sorry, they're pork, but I don't buy them.
That's still better than chicken.
Okay. Okay. Carol, anything? Okay, I just want to acknowledge that this is Tom's last meeting, and with us anyway, Mendocino Mitchell. And we sure wish you well, Tom. I appreciate all that you've done for this county over the past 5 years. You've certainly lived up to your commitment that you made here, and we appreciate it. And you're going to be sticking around helping us for quite a while, for a few months anyway, to get this sorted out. And thank you very much, and wish you the best. You're going to go to Virginia
Yes,
for a few days.
Got a wedding and daughter, and my last 2 days with the county will actually be the 27th and 28th of the month.
That you'll actually be here?
I'll actually be here.
Thursday and Friday, the 27th and 28th.
I'll actually be
That's
here.
right.
And, so, be working till 5 o'clock on the 28th.
I'll call you.
Is that Friday?
That's Friday.
I'm going to give you a call at 4:58 and see if you're still on the job.
Still be at my desk. And I think Brent Harrington and I, are meeting Thursday to go over issues and talk about transition and so forth.
Not this Thursday, he's supposed to be RCRC.
Following.
Thursday.
Yeah,
So,
it's going to be in Virginia.
yeah. I think we have,
that's right.
we have a good team in place. I think the interims are going to do very well with our existing team, and I think I'm hoping for a very smoothless transition. So,
Well, thank you for your job well done, and good luck in Mendocino.
thank you.
I just need to reiterate what Bill said. So, professionally and personally, Tom, I've really enjoyed working with you. I'll miss Karen. She's helped me with my garden. But I think the county has been very fortunate at this juncture, this last 5 years, to have you, and you've saved us a lot of money on capital improvement projects. We could not have done what we have without you. You brought a lot of strength in that area. I mean, just the example today of looking outside the box for public-private partnerships. We're always talking public-private. We don't seem to do it. You brought something forth today. So thank you very much.
I would like to say, reiterate Rita's comments and just say what a pleasure it's been working with you, and that I think you'll be sorely missed, and we'll be hard-pressed to find somebody of your capabilities to fill your shoes. So anyway, I wish you the very best, and at least in Mendocino County, you can walk outside Government Center and spread your arms, take a deep breath, and you can go back in high.
It gives new meaning to
I'll be up to visit you, Tom.
I wonder if they charge for a burn permit up there.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay.
And also,
Good luck.
Tom, good luck to you up there, and say hello to my friend, Mr. Beltrami.
I'd like to wish you luck, and I have a little different relationship with Tom. I'll miss passing notes back and forth.
What the hell is this board member talking about?
Yeah. Okay, we're going to move along now and save the closed session for the end, as Don DeLuise would say. And